A budget holiday to the tranquil Myall Lakes or bushwalking in the Barrington Tops may now be getting a little pricey, with an increase of 80% in camping fees. Up to 10,000 campers flock to the Myalls over the Christmas holidays. Almost that many again head for the hills in the cooler months. The price of pitching a tent and bedrolls for a family of 5 will go from $47 a week to more than $80. The National Parks and Wildlife Service says there hasn't been a fee increase for the past 4 years and that the parks still offer good value.
Well, I guess, looking at it in perspective, as compared to probably a lot of the privately owned camping areas in the district, it's still not in proportion to those. So.
Campers won't necessarily see any remarkable improvements in services for their money. In some cases, the increased fees will be used to recoup National Parks money already spent, $1 million on the Myalls over the past 4 years.
We have a commitment to putting back capital expenditure on behalf of the service into places like Myall Lakes, Booty and in the Barrington Tops.
18-year-old Maitland stock car driver Scott Cannon completed the final tune-ups this afternoon in preparation for this weekend's meeting. Scott is quickly earning himself a reputation as a future champion. His peers say he's already worked out the technicalities of sedan racing.
Just try and get to the front, move around a bit, and just try and get under the person in front.
He hopes to soon move on to the elite sprint car field and will be doing his best to impress team managers at Saturday's New South Wales Championship. Among the dirt spinners tomorrow night will be American legend Leland McSpadden. He intends to do everything possible to take home an Aussie title and $12,000 in prize money. The preliminary races, featuring plenty of local drivers, get underway at 7:30. Ground staff at Terrigal Haven have begun adding the finishing touches to one of the most picturesque rugby venues in the world. By Sunday, more than 4,000 people will cram into the natural amphitheatre to watch teams from all across Australia compete against selected internationals.
The internationals really love this tournament, and unfortunately for a lot of the heavyweight forwards like Phil Kearns, they can't play in it, but the backs absolutely love it. They think it's a tremendous way to hit out early in the season and show their wares.
Selectors will be hoping they do see some good play. They intend to use the games to pick the Aussie side for the Hong Kong Sevens.
It is official that Bob Dwyer, Glenn Eller and Jeff Miller, the 3 Australian selectors, will announce the side on Sunday after the games here.
The tournament is on Sunday, however most teams will arrive in Terrigal tomorrow for a round of social engagements and to meet fans. Darren Curtis, NBN News.
They came from as far away as Walgett and Moree, and while many kilometres separate their properties, for the 150 who attended the rally, there was one uniting factor: tough times on the farm.
Between drought and low prices, it's pretty hard existence.
One answer to those woes, according to the National Farmers Federation, is the opposition's proposed goods and services tax. Yet the Federation says the rally wasn't designed to boost the coalition's electoral chances, but to explain why the GST would be better than the existing system for those on the land.
Well, the present taxation system penalises exporters quite deliberately, and the government's own figures tell us that we're 5% worse off against our trading partners on that issue alone.
And support came from across the Tasman. Owen Jennings from New Zealand's Farmers Federation spoke about what's happened since the GST was introduced there 7 years ago.
We've taken on 20% more people in agriculture in the last 12 months. We're growing jobs, particularly in rural New Zealand now, because we're out there competing at a much lower cost level.
The farmers' organisations say they've been pushing for a GST for 5 years and have talked to all the major political parties about it. They say they're now concerned that the logic of the tax will be overtaken by the pre-election politicking.
Obviously the government is planning a lot of untruths, if you like, if you don't like to use the word lies, and misleading people.
The Farmers Federation and their New South Wales affiliate will continue pushing their policies through a series of rallies until the election next Saturday. Scott Bevan, NBN News. Consumer Affairs Minister Jeanette McHugh officially opened the centre, but it was the users of the service who were the first to cut the blue ribbon and move in. People such as those who have cerebral palsy, brain injuries and spina bifida will now be taken to the local pool for a swim or to the movies to catch the latest film. The program was set up by a team from Newcastle University after months of intensive research. The group discovered that severely disabled people found it difficult to gain access to simple recreational activities.
The people of Newcastle, it means that they are involved in helping people with real difficulties have access to all the things that we take for granted. And that's a good thing for the people of Newcastle as well as the people it's helping.
Nearly all 16 users of the service were at the opening to show their support. The centre is already running at full capacity. Vacancies will only become available when more people volunteer as carers. Newcastle University, after months of intensive research, the group discovered that
the Coffs Harbour couple was flying home from Scone in their Cherokee 140. They'd stopped briefly in Taree. Minutes after they took off again, the light plane lost power and came down in a paddock north of Taree Airport. Police and ambulance services attended, but no one was injured.
Yeah, the ambulance arrived, the fire brigade also. They weren't required.
A number of supermarket trolleys were raised from the murky waters of Throsby Creek, adding to the tonnage of rubbish collected by hundreds of volunteers who started early. Strong gloves and garbage bags were standard issue throughout the region.
Oh, we've found safes, old tyres, bits of tin. I mean, it's just been amazing. I just don't know where people find this rubbish to dump.
Community groups and organisations helped out. The crew of the HMAS Westralia dry docked in Newcastle made an assault on Bray Park at Waratah. When they weren't picking up, they were planting new trees. Newcastle Greens were out to prove a point, urging consumers and supermarkets to cut back on packaging. Just 2 bags of groceries yielded a full bag of cast-off wrappers.
If a lot of people have been out there returning their excess packaging yesterday, probably half as many people would have been required today.
The judges asked for a good clean start, but from then in the race got ugly. 8 rafts built by community groups and businesses, some crewed by media personalities, paddled out off Spears Point. Surf lifesavers left the rabble behind, rafts trading broadsides with flour and rotten fruit. That sinking feeling set in for some. Decks awash, others called for a tow line. Caught in the crossfire, NBN's courageous all-girl crew of Jodie McKay, Catherine Lamond, Kelly Hampton, Melissa Brown and Athena Fayers took out the Triers Award.
I have to read the news tonight, you know, but I guess it's all for a good cause, so...
It's a well-worn election practice, federal party leaders or heavyweights giving their local colleagues a helping hand in the profile stakes. Today it was the Democrats' turn, but while promoting 3 local candidates during a visit to the Hunter, Senator Coulter had little time for the coalition. As well as being publicly opposed to the coalition's proposed GST and move towards privatising education and health, the Democrats are also anti about Dr Hewson's industrial relations policy.
The philosophy which says that workers and employers are equal in terms of their negotiating ability, and that simply is untrue. A powerful employer can always screw an employee to the floor.
The Coalition intends introducing its industrial relations legislation in the first session of Parliament. If this occurs, the Democrats intend combining with the ALP to block the legislation. This could make way for a double dissolution and see voters going back to the polls within the next 12 to 18 months. Senator Coulter says if introduced in Parliament around May, the industrial relations legislation will then go to a Senate committee for discussion, coming back to Parliament around December.
And assuming then that it was voted against, it would have to come back in the autumn session next year, and assuming then that it was voted against again, we would be going to a double dissolution.
Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
It's like a modern-day MASH chopper, a Bell 212 similar to those used by the Army. The aircraft, formerly used for search and rescue work with the RAF in Western Australia, offers many of the attributes lost when Angel 1 went down in the Barringtons. Most importantly, load space. The chopper was called on to fly a full medical retrieval team to the aid of a seriously ill 63-year-old woman at Dungog this morning.
It was urgently needed, and we responded, and we got that lady from Dungog and took her to the John Hunter Hospital.
Their first patient now listed in a serious but stable condition in the John Hunter Hospital, the chopper crew along with engineers familiarised themselves with the new aircraft. A few modifications will be carried out over the next week, adding to the expenses of the service a $1,200 repair bill from Shortland Electricity for the power lines brought down by the Angel 1 crash. The service is expecting to hear from its insurers this week and may attempt to buy the latest arrival.
Well, what we'll do is certainly we consider that as for sure. Once official word comes through, when we know exactly where we're headed. But in the interim, what's most important is we can service our area like they've become accustomed with.
In a state first, the NRMA forged new links with the police force today, handing over $900 to the Hunter Police Trail Bike Squad to pay for specialised helmets which are fitted with microphones. These will enable the squad, who work in pairs, to communicate directly with each other, making it much safer if they get separated while out in the bush in pursuit of car thieves. The squad's only means of communication prior to this was a handheld portable two-way radio.
Before this, they couldn't do this. They had to go through the police radio network itself and then have to relay the message. Now they can talk directly to the other cycle.
One of the squad's major roles is to search for stolen cars that have been dumped in bushland throughout the Hunter region. The NRMA has a vested interest in the squad's success.
Well, the NRMA enjoys 60% of the market for all car insurance in New South Wales, and it's cost us $62 million in the last 12 months.
Mr Farthing says the community may also benefit. Quicker location and identification of stolen cars could lead to a stabilising of car insurance premiums. Catherine Lamond, NBN News. The project, funded by all three levels of government, is called Greenway 1. It includes turning the 6 kilometres of disused rail line into a landscaped corridor with a cycleway alongside. Officially launched by Federal Land Transport Minister Bob Brown and State Member for Lake Macquarie Jeff Hunter, the project will be completed in 2 stages. The first involving the landscaping of the section of line between Main Road Toronto and the Old Heritage Centre. 10 unemployed people have been recruited to do this work, which will take 6 months to finish. Their wages covered by a $20,000 grant from the federal government. Stage 2 is the cycleway from Fassifern to Toronto. This will create 10 more jobs. Bob Brown also announced today the success of BHP's Newcastle Steelworks in tendering for a contract to supply steel for the $17 million upgrade of the Sydney to Brisbane rail line. A Sydney company will use BHP steel to manufacture steel fastenings to reinforce concrete sleepers, which will be used to refit 142 kilometres of rail line near Grafton. Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
Known as Metal Trades Manufacturing, the new subject is a joint initiative between the Education Department and the Hunter Valley Training Company. 13 Year 11 students from various schools are learning the tools of the trade in areas like sheet metal work, engineering drawing and fabrication techniques. The 2-unit subject will go towards their HSC mark, and for students like Trent Miller, the choice was an easy one.
Just a good course to learn to be able to do and have skills behind me when I go into the workforce.
Course coordinator Ray Johnson says it offers more than hands-on training for potential employees.
It would also, I believe, be a great asset to any future employer of these students in that they will have both a higher school certificate and 2 years of pre-vocational training. So it's not a bad investment.
Most of these students have decided to begin a trade after Year 12 rather than go on to tertiary studies. They're hoping to leave school with a competitive advantage.
It helps us to get a job, better education. I don't think I get into uni, and pretty good with my hands at work and stuff.
Qualifications, head start for a job, probably a better opportunity to get a job than probably anyone that hasn't had the experience.
Melinda Smith, NBN News.
To Cessnock City Council, a state government proposal to streamline road classification by handing over regional routes to councils is full of potholes.
Would mean that 80 kilometres of road would revert back to council control, which is currently funded by the RTO.
Those Cessnock roads receive about $400,000 annually in state government funding for maintenance. Council estimates the roads are in such bad condition it would take $5 million to repair them. And if this proposal becomes reality, some aldermen are worried the 80 kilometres of regional roads will deteriorate into goat tracks.
That could mean that we have to spend ratepayers' money on what were state roads and what should still be state roads, and the condition they're in, we can't just afford to do it ourselves.
A spokesman for Roads, Minister Wal Murray, says the state government's regional road grants of $64 million annually will continue for the next 3 years, and after that time period, the funding will remain.
The document that we've seen, the proposal from the RTA, gives no indication at all of what the funding sources may be after 3 years' time.
The council is preparing a report opposing the state government plan. Scott Bevan, NBN News.
Being named as one of rugby league's new faces of the 90s has humbled the young Knights halfback.
Came up out of the blue, and it's a tremendous honour and privilege to be asked by the rugby league hierarchy to perform such a duty. I don't think any other young guy's been asked to do that, so I'm certainly treating it as a special moment in my life.
Rodwell says he won't be distracted by the honour. His form on the field this season top priority. With last night's ceremonies over, today it was back to training in preparation for Sunday's season opener against Eastern Suburbs at Marathon Stadium. In a last season clash with the Roosters, the Knights toppled the then league leaders 10-0. It's this kind of form Knights coach David Waite is looking for on Sunday.
Play to the best of our ability, and obviously if we do that, the win is well and truly in our grasp.
David Waite had his 15-man squad out at training this afternoon. Adrian Brunker has been cleared of a thigh injury. Rodwell has kept his halfback position. Reserves include Paul Marquette and Max Chapman. Jason Martin is reserve grade half. Tony Kemp is back after complete shoulder reconstruction. David Waite welcomes Kemp's return.
He's looking forward to resuming his rugby league for the Knights. It's been a long time since he's played. If Adrian Brunker was in any doubt, though, obviously Tony would be considered, given the fact that he's an international rugby league player, possibly to fill that spot.
Minutes into the game and Mark Sargent knew there was a lot riding on their first official hit-out for the year. A short time later, East tried an old trick and caught Brad Godden off guard. Less than 10 minutes later, Godden was out cold after landing square on his head. Officials say there was definitely no malice in the tackle, just an unfortunate fall. For 2 minutes he was out to it. X-rays at the John Hunter cleared him later of any damage apart from some severe jarring. However, the club doctor has already stood him down for next week's side. Exit Godden, enter Jamie Ainscoe. In just a few tackles, he went from try-saving hero to the villain, letting East in for their second try.
Probably just a lack of concentration. I think I was having a go at the other winger or something like that, and next time I'll try and do better.
It's the 21-year-old's second year in Newcastle, and although he's trying to become a regular first grader, he wasn't happy to get a run at Godden's expense.
It makes you feel a bit sick in the stomach. Seeing an injury like that, anything could happen to the man.
The Knights went down yesterday 20-10, but there was some joy for the crowd towards the end of the game when John Schuster showed he's in for an electric year with almost the length of the field try.
In all, 6 vehicles were involved, a semi-trailer, 4 trucks and a station wagon. The seriously injured man is a tow truck operator who'd been with firemen cleaning diesel fuel from the roadway.
We're all standing on the side of the road just sort of waiting, emptying diesel out of one truck that's spilling on the road, and this other truck here's just got out of control sideways and just cleaned us all up.
The chain of events began around 4 o'clock when this truck skidded on the slippery road surface, veered across the carriageway and into a parked semi-trailer. Another truck then repeated the performance before yet another struck the group of salvage workers.
Very frightening, mate. Come that close to getting me, got me mate instead.
That man was flown by helicopter to Newcastle's John Hunter Hospital with serious head injuries. The vehicle which struck him then skidded on into his tow truck. A northbound station wagon then went under the tray of this truck. Another truck skidded at the same spot a few minutes later and went off the road. The 37-year-old driver received rib injuries.
A move to stop smoking in every enclosed workplace, including clubs and hotels, will be discussed in State Cabinet next week. Already it's got the community talking and many, even at management level, applauding.
We make a profit from tobacco, but we would make a lot more money if we didn't sell tobacco at all and smoking was barred from all public areas. We wouldn't need to spend the thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars on air conditioning equipment that we do and air handling to force fresh air into your building to take away the smell of smoke.
Mr Ferris also lists the possibility of passive smoking lawsuits as a motivator to support the smoking ban, but believes it needs to be phased in over time and will take state government legislation to make people abide by it.
Can't do it overnight either. I think they'd have to tie it in with Queensland and Victoria because there's clubs on the border and there's hotels on the border. You wouldn't like them to be losing business to either side of that border.
While the proposal has gained support from the management of many local clubs, initially it seems the idea doesn't sit too well with the patrons.
A man comes to a pub, have a beer, have a smoke, play the poker machines, do what he wants to do. I don't think the liberty should be taken off us.
I think we all have the right to choose what we all do. We're not rude about smoking.
Others who preferred not to comment on camera supported the smoking ban, a few suggesting a smoke-free club with a small area allocated for smokers to congregate. Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
There's a blue brewing in the Patterson Valley near Maitland. Local residents fighting an application for a mining exploration licence.
We've got the strongest working committee that I've ever had the pleasure of working with, and we'd have 800 people whose names we have on petition there today that were right behind us.
Today, Natural Resources Minister Ian Causley met the protesters. Locals say commercial minerals application to search for zeolite, a pink rock used in agricultural fertiliser, could lead to the destruction of their farming valley. They've even had specialist medical advice warning some zeolites have a health risk exceeding that of the most potent asbestos fibres.
I think there's some evidence of one of the zeolites, that there's a carcinogen in one of the zeolites, but there are 45 different zeolites.
Mr Causley said he would have difficulty refuting Commercial Minerals' right to explore for zeolite, but that didn't mean the bulldozers were moving in. The Minister says it's unlikely mining will go ahead here in Paterson, saying he believes there isn't enough zeolite to justify a commercial project. But he would not completely rule it out.
Could I put it to you this way, that if there wasn't any exploration, there wouldn't be any coal in the Hunter Valley, there wouldn't be any mines, we wouldn't have any silver lead out at Broken Hill.
So locals are still unsure what will happen. Whatever the result, they've vowed to fight any move to change their valley. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
The two-day event attracted 138 divers from 10 regions across the state. Ranging in age from 9 to 17 years, they competed in various divisions, vying for a spot on the state team to go to the national titles in Melbourne next month. Today's gusty conditions didn't help their efforts. Judged on approach to the board, lift and entry into the water, it's a sport that stretches the limits of discipline and concentration. There was some success for the Hunter squad. Current state champion, 11-year-old Crystal Delaforce from Cardiff South, won the primary schoolgirls section. Silver medal went to Sydney's Ellen Southwood and bronze to Crystal Hitchcock from Cardiff North Primary. The Champion of Champions event was the highlight, taking out the boys section, and his third successive win in the Open Tower event was 16-year-old Daniel Banks from Sydney's West. Desma Caloris from Broadmeadow High won the 13-year-old girls division, qualifying her for the main event, where all eyes were on Sydney's Kristen Webster. The 17-year-old won her age division, going on to score the highest points and the overall title for the third year in a row, another step towards her dream.
Hopefully I'll make World Age team this year, which goes to Crystal Palace London, and then next year I'm looking forward to hopefully make the Commonwealth Games team and then hopefully the Olympic team in 1996.
So we should stay.
The New South Wales League has used Tina Turner and Jimmy Barnes belting out an old tune to get attendances up. In Newcastle, the Knights have gone for a raunchy grunt and catchy beat. The song and video clip is the brainchild of ad man Art Ryan and NBN production staff.
It's a song that once you've heard it, I mean, you can certainly sing the chorus, and then with a little bit more practice, you can get the verses out, and then you can get all your mates there, and you can gather around the keg or whatever you do, the teapot, and you can sing. You know, you gotta be tough, and all your mates can go.
The video clip is designed to appeal to both sexes. For the men, plenty of hard knocks and action. For the women, plenty of muscly, steamy looks from the players.
The guys that are marketed by the league especially, you know, the Rodwells and the Harrigans and people like that and the Mark Sargents, I think they just accept it as part of the game now, you know.
The video clip begins on NBN tonight, and the Knights will be selling copies of the catchy tune.